What's so unique about these games? Now, you might recognize a couple of the names. I'm going to take a wild guess that this one right here you're pretty familiar with. But there's something that these games lack that the vast majority of NES titles have. Do you recognize what it is? How about now? That's right, tabs. These little connectors right here. So what's the cause for the difference? Here's that copy of Spy vs. Spy that we were looking at earlier. As you can see, it's an NES cart. This is how they'd all eventually look, except for the weird orangish on the Spy's actual faces, but we'll just leave that up to the ravages of time. On the spine, you can see it's got two tabs on either side, which help to connect the two halves of the shell of the cart together. Also on the spine sticker, like I mentioned in the Spy vs. Spy review, it just says MAD instead of actually giving the title of the game. Weird little quirk. And on the back, you've got your caution warnings here. Don't accidentally consume this cartridge. Do not play frisbee with this cartridge, especially if you've got a rather large dog. This is how NES games would end up looking. But it wasn't always that way. This may be one of the most iconic images in the entirety of video gaming. The original Super Mario Bros. Kart. Doesn't even have Duck Hunt here, so it gives you some idea of when we're talking about. Now, superficially, it looks very much the same. The form factor is identical, it's the same gray cart, mostly because it's not a Legend of Zelda game, but there are a few differences. Note, no tabs. Why is this? Well, if you take a look at the back, unlike the Spy vs. Spy cart that only had 3 screws, this original launch title cart, in fact, has 5. This cover art would follow a template that became the standard for NES games during the launch and for a little while afterward, and has remained one of the most recognizable images in video games. You've got the action shot right here, whether or not it may actually happen. I don't believe I've ever seen a fireball traveling through a wall like that, not to mention that, well, the lava's already up to Mario's ankles, and he's probably not going to have a very good time of it. We've got that gently upward angled font. You've got your genuine Nintendo seal of approval. And you've got this icon that helped to describe exactly what was inside the cart. This particular game is in the Action series. You've also got your Light Gun series, Robot series for those rare carts that involve the Rob peripheral, and the Sports series as indicated by this pile-up of sports equipment. A strange little quirk, though, is that for all of the original release games, if the game itself wasn't developed by Nintendo, that copyright information would be right out on the front. Useful little piece of information, especially if you're a collector. One of the other unique aspects about this particular run of carts is that some of the games aren't actually what they seem, and this is because, if you take it apart, what you have is a 60-pin ROM that would have been used for a Famicom cartridge instead of an NES cartridge, hooked onto an adapter. And if you remove this cart from the adapter, you can then use this part to play imported Famicom games on your NES. We'll save that for another video. Suffice it to say, it's an interesting little quirk of history, and one that I'm looking forward to covering in the coming weeks. You guessed it, launch title.